We turn to a super friend of the show. He is a great head coach, was a great head coach, will always be a great head coach to us. He is Mike Martz, former Rams and Bears coach. Got a book coming out, Third and Long, and that's coming out soon, and he is a dear friend of the show. Make It Right, Call It Right hotline. There he is, Mike Martz. Hi, Mike. How are you, Coach?
Coach.
Afternoon, guys. I'm doing great. How about you?
Oh, good. Always a pleasure. I thought of you right away when the Browns decided to move on from Kevin Stefanski. I'm going to go back to the beginning of the story. Just what were your thoughts when they decided to part ways with Kevin?
Well, it didn't surprise me. All the attention that, the young quarterback and that whole relationship, it just, and at this point, the way it's going through the league, a lot of these older guys that have been there a while, it seems like the whole thing is, you want to make a change. So it didn't surprise me. It also didn't surprise me that somebody gobbled him up right away.
What do you think about Atlanta and Kevin as a match?
Well, I think it's a good match. I think he's really a good head coach. They've had problems. I say the Browns have had problems at getting a quarterback. That answer, throughout their history for the most part, and that's not Kevin's fault. That's somebody's not making good decisions there in personnel. So he's a good coach. He'll do well down there.
What did he do right here? And I can tell you a lot of things that he did right here. I thought, what impressed you the most about him is probably the better way to ask the question.
Well, I think they were always competitive. I think that he has terrific leadership qualities. I think as time went on, I don't know how much control he had on the offense. If I could find a guy that I want, that I was comfortable with, I wish I could have let somebody run the offense. It just didn't happen. But he did a lot of good things. I think the level of play, his football acumen was outstanding. When you watch guys from a coach's standpoint, when you watch his teams play, his guys are well coached. I think they were tough guys. He brought toughness to both sides of the ball there. I think there's a lot of good things about him.
The Browns sit here now, Mike, looking for a head coach, and they seem to be looking in a lot of different directions. Jim Schwartz, who is a veteran coach, who was a head coach, and then guys as young as 30 who have never called plays. When you're looking for a coach, and you've been on the other side of that, what is it that makes a guy hireable, desirable, and the right fit for a team?
Yeah, in my mind, I have a clear answer. I don't know that, people that are doing the hiring, if they really understand, that whole part of what it takes to be a head coach in the league. I just don't know. But I think the biggest issue is, of course, leadership and being able to give that organization or that team a direction. Come in and instill that direction, hold everybody accountable to do that. And then you need to be a facilitator for your staff and for your players. And then you have to have, that's all leadership. And then from the leadership, on the other side of that, there's two things. And the second thing would be a high football acumen so that you understand the game on an intimate level on both sides of the ball. And I would say probably 80% of the guys that are out there, I think you can't check the box on them. Obviously, LA's got one. Sean does a great job with that. Chicago does. These are young guys, bright guys with great leadership. They have high football acumen. I think Jim Schwartz is that. They're not a lot of them around. I think the older guy like Jim who's done it, has learned from it. He's got terrific leadership. His players play for him at a high level. You watch his guys play, the details are coached. So you got the leadership and the high football acumen. And obviously on that side of the ball, you can't be a good coach on that side and not know what a good quarterback is. So, my vote would be for him, to be honest with you. I think he'd make a good head coach there.
I think we both agree with you on that. We've said that numerous times. Jim Schwartz would be just fine. I would be extremely happy with him.
What about Buffalo moving on from Sean McDermott? And here's a guy with a great track record who's available.
Yeah, that one upsets me. I think that's a political battle where he lost out. I think with the GM there, the GM won and he lost, and so he's gone. But I think what happened there, you've got this great quarterback, probably the best one in the league right now, and they didn't surround him with anybody. And I don't know if that's Sean or if that's the general manager. I don't know how much power McDermott had in the personnel, where those were his decisions or somebody else's. But I think there's probably friction there. I think if they had more at the wide receiver position, just think if he had two terrific wide receivers, or how good they would have been. They got the back. They got everything else it takes. They just don't have. It's just like having a brand new Mercedes with no tires. It just doesn't fit.
So is McDermott a desirable candidate for these 6 teams that are still looking?
I think obviously he's proven he's excellent. The biggest thing you have to figure out the personnel issues. Some of these older guys want to have complete control of personnel and all those good things. I just don't know what he wants, but as a head coach, there's no question he just can't miss.
Mike, if I offered you all 6 of these jobs at one point, which one is the most desirable?
I would take the Cleveland job in a heartbeat.
Good answer here. Good answer here. Why?
No, I mean that because I think the challenge of coming in, I think that they're hungry to win, which is awesome. Kind of like when we came to St. Louis here. You need to change the culture, and I think he started that. Kevin started that, and I think I could solve that quarterback problem. I don't think that's hard.
Please tell us.
You just need to pick the right guy, and maybe they have him. Maybe Sanders is the guy. I don't know, but you'd have to see him closer. I could resolve that issue on offense in my mind, and I just think if you get that team to win and get them into the playoffs, that town would just go crazy.
Congratulations, you just got the job.
Yeah, you're hired.
We have 2 offices for you. Kevin had 2. You can have a 3rd office in the building if you wanted. How's that sound? That's years ago, but I kind of coveted that job for a long time.
Now, you're accepting this job and wanting this job because you're the type of guy who likes a challenge and you think you can come in and do that.
Well, I know I could. There's no question about it. And the quarterback issue is just not that hard. What you have to have is you just got to let whoever's doing that make the decision on the quarterback. And I don't know if that's possible there.
Mike, what made it desirable when you wanted it?
I just think that they had good players. They had a lot of good players. They're just missing some key elements, and they just made some mistakes on some staff, and they just made bad mistakes on quarterbacks. And, you got a whole football team that's a good team waiting to happen, and you've held that team hostage, with the quarterback position.
We've talked to you about this before, but explain it how you think it might work with the Browns now. You won big with Kurt Warner, who nobody wanted, with Trent Green, who was passed over numerous times, with Mark Bulger, who was a later round pick. That you found a quarterback, you stuck with him, you made it work. How did you guys do that? How does that relate to what's going on here?
So I will tell you, there are a lot more good quarterbacks out there than there are guys that can coach them. You look at all these guys, these young kids that are interviewing for jobs, and they're system guys. They know systems, they know plays, and they get on the computer and they steal plays from other teams, which everybody does, which is no problem. They just run plays. And I can look at a game and watch and tell you the background of that coordinator in a heartbeat. And, you have to be able to develop and teach a quarterback. And these young kids that come in the league, there's so many talented guys that come in and never make it because they've never been developed. And then you find a guy like at Chicago who knows how to develop a quarterback. And I think we talked about this before the season. I just said he's going to be a home run, and the quarterback's going to be good. He's a generational head coach. That's what you're looking for, guys like him, and a guy that can develop and bring along that quarterback, and he's done that. And that relationship is really critical. So it's not so much whether it's a first round. They come from all different places, sizes, and shapes. You have to know what one is to begin with, and then you got to be able to develop them and teach them.
That's fascinating. If you're the Browns here, and let's look past the coach for a second to the quarterback, do you draft a guy? Do you find one of those guys that maybe has been overlooked on other teams and maybe hasn't been coached up, Mike? What would you do?
I never looked at a guy with the thought of he's been passed over or whatever. When I look at tape, I look at what, I try to evaluate him, and I don't care about his background. Ryan Fitzpatrick, we drafted him, I think, in the 7th round. We found him, and I think he was a terrific player. He has an arrogant statement, but I think if I'd been there with him for a few years, I think he would have really had a great career. And he did anyway. I mean, he had a great career, but I think he could have been in a place for a real long time and been very successful. But I mean, the same standard that you hold every guy to when you look at it in terms of being a future starter and good player in the league, you just don't change that based on these outside influences, whether somebody else liked him or whether they think he's a first rounder, yada, yada, yada. Hey, here's a great example. I look at that national championship game, and you got one great one on one side, and the other one, I would never draft him.
It's interesting.
Why?
He's just not particularly accurate all the time. I don't like the way he competes. It looks like a deer in the headlights at times. There's nothing about him that on the three things that I would hold him to: the toughness, the accuracy, consistently. I don't know his football acumen, but he looks indecisive to me, and I don't like that.
What is it that you like about Mendoza? I'm assuming I have it right.
Yeah, there isn't anything I don't like about him. There's toughness. You could see that when he ran. His accuracy, he got a quick delivery. He's been well schooled. He understands the game on an intimate level. He's ready to go. He's going to be a good one.
And if the Raiders get him, they better have the right coach for him, correct?
See, now there's a great chance. Just what you said. There's a great example of taking a great talent, and he'll just kind of sputter around, flop around, and he'll try to overcome everything as much as he can because he's very talented, and he'll have some success. But when you go to an organization, unless they really get somebody that can develop a quarterback, he'll never really fulfill his potential.
I got one more quick question for you. When you look at college quarterbacks coming out now compared to maybe, 10 years ago, how are they different? How has NIL changed things? How has the college game changed the way quarterbacks are now entering the NFL?
I don't know if the NIL has really affected it. That's a tough question to answer, but I do think that there's a lot more different systems that have developed quarterbacks in college than there was in the past. Yeah. It's a real popular deal. Something gets hot like the Oregon deal where everybody comes to practice and play rap music, and then you run the line of scrimmage and run as many plays you can as fast as you can. That went through for a while, and it was hard to stomach. Now they're getting back to football and being guys under center again and some of those things. But the big deal is there's just more diversity in how they're throwing the football, and they're throwing it more, and they're throwing it better. And so you take a kid that's played for 4 years. Great example, Oregon. He was my favorite guy coming out that year, and I told Sean that. And the reason I say that is he played for 4 years. You can't throw that many passes and have that many completions and not have something to you.
That's a good point. Coach, as always, we love talking to you. We'll talk to you maybe sometime after the Super Bowl here real soon. And then tell me about the book coming out. How soon until we get Third and Long?
Well, just about 2 chapters left, and then we should come out sometime this spring, early summer, I think.
Awesome.
All right, Coach. We will talk to you soon. Always appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, Mike Martz. Love having him on the show. And, of course, he was on the Make It Right, Call Kyle Wright hotline.